Good morning, parents, students, and colleagues. My name is Ampao Chiu. I'm the principal of National Junior College. I would like to welcome all of you to this e-streamed open house. And I'm sure all of you would have some questions to ask us and to know us better. We've done this for 2 years because of COVID. No school was able to mount a face-to-face open house. I think what is most important is for all of us, when you hear me, or all of you, when you hear me, to think through what choosing a school for your child is all about. Many times I have spoken with parents regarding school choice. The reason why I say so is because the choice that you make for your child, or the choice that your child makes, will determine the amount of learning, the experiences that he or she will have, and most importantly, what comes at the end of 6 years, for example, in National Junior College. My advice to parents would be this. Number one, find a school that fits your child's dispositions. What do I mean by that? In an IP school, your child's disposition must be one that he or she will be able to learn how to learn. Meaning, in an IP school, we focus on the learning process. We focus on helping a child to learn how to learn. We focus on a child's metacognition, meaning the ability, as I said, to think about their own learning. So it requires a certain disposition of a child. If your child requires more hand-holding, then an IP school may not be as suitable. Number two, the ability or the disposition of your child to be able to look at problems and solve them. Why do I say so? In an IP school like ours, we focus on a problem-solving approach. When we encounter problems, how do we solve these problems? How do we have a set of tools to be able to solve this problem? So these are two very important dispositions, I think, over my years as a principal of National Junior College that are required of students in an IP program, especially in National Junior College. Teaching and learning is done, as I said earlier, and alluded to earlier, with a process of learning to learn in mind. And require, therefore, a child to be independent, to be able to think through issues, and to be able to know that learning will comprise challenges, and sometimes learning is not something that will just come to them. They have to be positive. So this, to me, are important characteristics. Of course, in order to come to a particular IP school, again, you would have known that the qualifying range is 5 to 7 AL, achievement levels. Is this difficult to achieve? I would say it is not that different from the past cutoffs. The past cutoffs for National Junior College has ranged from 254 to 256. Last year, it was 255. That would mean that your child is essentially in the top 7% of the cohort that set for the PSLE, or that will sit for the PSLE. I think your children have set for the PSLE. Sorry, I mean your children will be sitting for the PSLE. So this should be the range of students that will be able to come here and at the same time will be able to flourish in an environment like ours. I've also promised parents in the past that any child who comes to National Junior College who join us will complete the 6 years here. We have a very basic principle with an LE, not with an AL, that any child and every child who joins National Junior College will be given the best support, will be given a surrounding and an environment that will help your child to learn. And as learning is critical to what we are doing here, we do not believe that the child should move to another track if the child cannot cope. We believe that we can help the child to do the best he or she can. We do not expect the child to be at the top every time, but we expect the child to want to learn. As long as the child wants to learn, he or she will not have any issues regarding progression to the next levels. I say this again. I've made the promise that any child who comes to National Junior College will complete 6 years. There will be no O-level track in NJC. Finally, this year, I think it might be a challenging year because most parents will be calculating what are the chances of my child coming to a particular IP school again, for example, us, because of the new PSLE scoring system. My advice is not to worry. As long as the child puts in the effort, as long as the child is able to do the best he or she can, my view has always been, it does not really matter which school your child goes to. I've always said this, and I believe it, that every school in Singapore, every secondary school in Singapore will do the best for your child. So when ultimately you make the choice, or your child makes the choice, what is important is to refer back to what I've said earlier, your child's dispositions. Is the child an independent child who can learn and like to learn? Is the child able to solve problems? That's what we are looking for. So these dispositions are critical. The academic part is not the part that is most important. The academic part is important only in the sense that ultimately the child has to go through the academic process. The other parts to us are just as important. The ability to solve problems, the ability to be resilient, the ability not to give up, the ability to plow on when the challenges are there, are what we are looking for. And I think if you look at the current situation that we are in, these are the qualities that we require of our children in order for them to survive and, more importantly, thrive in the future. So I would like parents to think through what I've just said. Look at your child, understand your child well, talk to your child, and find out from your child what is the best choice for him or her. Thank you very much, and have a good day. Thank you.
Hi, very good morning to all of you, parents and guardians, boys and girls. Welcome to the second part of our live e-open house session for the junior high or secondary 1 to 4 section. I'm Madam Gwen Tan, and Vice Principal of NJC. Now, if you were with us earlier, you would have heard our principal, Mr. Ang, speak about NJC and what we stand for. So in this segment, members of the College Management Committee are here to answer any questions you may have. Mr. Ang is also on the ready to come in and join us in our conversation with you. With me here are, let me introduce, firstly, Dr. Lim Yi-en, HOD of the Integrated Program as well as Language Arts. Mr. Alan Goh, HOD of Science for the Junior High section. He will also be able to share more with you on research at NJC. Madam Woon Yok Fan, HOD of Mother Tongue Languages. Ms. Michelle Eng, HOD of Aesthetics. Now, if you are interested in NJC's music program or the MOE art elective program, she will be in the best position to answer any queries that you may have. And last but not least, we have Mr. Sham. Mr. Sham Das is the year head of the junior high section. He oversees the holistic development of all students and can share with you more about a variety of topics, including that on the boarding program, which we can see and many of you have asked questions about, CCA experiences, peer support programs, and so on and so forth. So if you don't already know, you may post your questions using the comment section, be it on Facebook or on YouTube. If you are unable to answer your queries later live during this session, please be assured that we will do so via the respective social media platforms after this. And also, we are happy to share that this session will be recorded and available for your viewing after today. Now, many of you here with us today, this morning, are likely considering applying to NJC under the DSA. So let me share briefly on some of the pertinent points with regard to this. So the DSA applications are already open, of course, and they close next Tuesday on 1st of June at 3 p.m. Applicants can choose to be considered for DSA to NJC under a wide range of talent areas in sports and games, in visual, literacy, literary and performing arts, as well as in the various STEM areas. Now, in NJC, what we will be looking for in our DSA, among all the DSA applicants, are first and foremost a passion for and commitment to the area of the interest. Now, importantly, past experience in the talent area is not a requirement. We are, of course, also looking out for students with the potential to cope with the rigor of the IP, which includes both academic and co-curricular demands. Commitment to and to contribute to the school through the area of interest, as well as other opportunities to serve, and of course, sound character in line with our values, which are civility, altruism, resilience, and enterprise. And of course, very importantly, the ability to be both a team player, an independent learner, and self-directed learner. So we'll inform all shortlisted applicants via email to attend an e-interview. This can include an audition or a trial, and more details on that, okay, will be provided in the email notification if your child is selected. The interviews will be conducted latest by mid-September. And all students who are admitted to NJC via DSA are expected to honor the commitment to the school. DSA applicants, students must also participate in the activities related to the talent they are selected for throughout junior high years. And this is a frequently asked question: what happens in the senior high years or equivalent of JC 1 and 2? Now in JC 1 and 2, all students, irrespective of whether they had come into NJC via the DSA, are allowed to either continue with participating in the same CCAs or special programs, or they can move on and explore other areas of interest. Now, with that about DSA, let's move on to our Q&A session. And as we wait for more questions to stream in, let's first have Dr. Lim Yi-en to share more about the IP at NJC. So Dr. Lim, please.
Good morning, everyone. Welcome to e-open house. Now, I'd like to share a little bit about what IP is all about, not just NJC IP. So perhaps some of us have not had any child been in IP before. So let's have a look at what IP is. It's not a very new program, but maybe it's unfamiliar to most of us who grew up with the O-level track. Now, the IP is not just about bypassing the O levels and straight to the A levels, because there are implications on joining the IP program besides enjoying a stress-free 4 years. Now, Mr. Ang mentioned that in NJC IP, and I think that is true for many of the IPs, is that the focus is on the process of learning. It's on learning how to learn. It's about metacognition. That means thinking about how you think, and it's also about values. So that's true of a lot of IPs. But in NJC, not only are we not an O-level track course, because it's not focused on training students for O-levels, we want them to move beyond what the O-level track will demand of them. So this means it's about developing the whole child in all ways and stretching them beyond what a 4-year O-level program can do. Because, if you're in an O-level program, then at some point in Sec 3 or early Sec 4, things will be geared towards training you and getting you prepared for the O-level exams. And because we don't have that particular endpoint, O-level endpoint, then we have the extra time to do more. And what the NJC IP does is that the management team and the HODs have worked together across all 6 years to prepare a program that will help your child move seamlessly in a streamlined way all the way to A levels, which means that some of the work that is your child's going to face will be challenging. So your child will be stretched. The children who come to NJC must be prepared to be stretched. In fact, that could be true of all IP schools and experiences. So yes, IP is about stretching yourself in terms of your mind, as well as in terms of your social emotional selves, because you're in a new environment, going to work with new people, going to work with challenging materials. So you need to build resilience, you need to have an open mind, you need to be optimistic, you need to be prepared for growth in all directions. So what we're saying is that if you and your child choose to be in an IP program or NJC IP program, then there will be lots and lots of new experiences that you have to be open to. For example, new ways of learning, new material all the time, new ways of being assessed. The past, the past experiences of being in primary school, the way you're tested and taught, and how you learn in primary school, that will all have to change. So your expectations as you come into a new system, an IP program in NJC, will have to reflect that you're ready for new things, and you're prepared to learn in different ways, and you're prepared to do your very, very best, because that's all we ask for, that you do your very best and to be committed to what you have signed up for. So essentially what I want to say is that an NJC IP student is always willing to try, to strive, and in the end to thrive. So that's what I would like to say about children who come to NJC. Thank you.
Hi everyone, my name is Mr. Sham. I'm the year head for the junior high. I'll just go through roughly what's the DSA about and our structure as to how we go about with the interviews. We'll be using a range of assessment tools such as interviews and auditions to admit the students under the DSA. What's important is the scheme is to identify whether the specific talents are a good fit for our school's CCAs. That would be the ideal performance of why we're looking for the as you'd like to know, there's no academic tests. We have currently no new categories. We have 5 broad categories for our DSA: CCA Sports, CCA Performing Arts, our Arts Excellence Program, Music Excellence, and STEAM. One of the purposes is to offer well-rounded students a place in NJC, of course, which otherwise they're based on their PSLE score. So one of the things that I like to really emphasize is our selection is not based on raw or practice talent only. It is past experience is not a requirement. So for example, if you have no experience in track and field, you can't run, you have your primary school does not have a CCA track and field, but you're a child that shows a lot of passion and you are trying very, very hard in this sport, maybe on your own free time, we would encourage you to apply for a DSA. Because I like to rephrase, we do not look for just practice talent alone. In fact, raw talent is what we actually look out for. And of course, we want well-rounded students to come into NJC. Okay, so how does the process work? You will submit all your portfolio and everything via MOE. That's phase one. You will submit all your documents to MOE. After that, we will review all your documentation, and if you are successful, you'll be scheduled for an interview and an audition. It will be held in your primary school, so we will be doing everything via Zoom. One thing to note is, if you do come into NJC via DSA, your commitment to the CCA is until junior high 4, which is secondary 4. But your commitment to the school will be for all 6 years. Okay. I would like to say that there is no quota placed on any CCA. Okay, that means it does not mean that certain CCAs get more or less. I mentioned we would like to, it is really whether the kid is well-rounded and it's a good fit for our school program. How many places are we allowed? Generally, we can take up to about 20 to 30%. On average, maybe I can tell you the last 3 years, we've had close to about 900, almost 900 to 1,000 applicants, and we shortlist about 150 for the interview, and we've offered about 60 students over the last few years. Okay, I saw some questions about boarding. Maybe I'll answer. Right now, due to the national posture, we are not able to have a stay-in boarding program. But what we have done is have a day boarding program where the child goes through a simplified version or a less. They don't have to stay in boarding, but after school we do some of the boarding programs that they would do if they were staying in boarding. So what happens in boarding? So if your child comes into NJC, they will spend for every year from junior high 1 to junior high 4, they will spend about 1 term in boarding. So it's kind of like the army, of course not so strict. They come in on a Sunday evening, they check in to boarding, and they leave on Friday after their last lesson. And then of course the weekends they go back to you. It's again for every year, it's about 1 term they will stay, between 6 to 8 weeks. When they go to the JC, because there's 300 new students roughly that come in from the O-level intake, it's a shortened version where they all get to mingle and meet each other. It's about for 2 weeks. Yep. Okay, that's all from me.
Hello, good morning, everyone. So I will talk about DSA STEAM. There are a couple of questions on that. So first question, can the students join the same STEAM program if they're not in DSA? There are some programs that we extend to the whole cohort. For example, design thinking workshops, for example, coding workshops, and even prototyping workshops done up by our very own AEP teachers. So this will be open for the whole cohort to join or on a sign-up basis. Now, for our DSA STEAM is more than just a suite of programs. The unique thing about our DSA STEAM is your child will get sort of a second personal mentor, a dedicated STEAM teacher who will work with your child across the years in NJ. And this mentorship is key to how we develop the child to be able to not just know more and practice STEAM, but also to use it to better serve the community. So DSA STEAM students will get the opportunity to lead their peers in projects, in school improvement projects, and all this needs time. So hence the next question on the commitment. DSA STEAM students, we require them to be able to meet with their mentors once a week in the afternoon after school. And they are able to join any other programs in NJN. I mean, CCA or AEP program if they meet the selection criteria, provided there is no clash. So as parents, I think we need to be aware that there's so many programs out there for a child to join. We need to be selective. We can't just have our children join everything, because we split out the time and they wouldn't be able to focus. Then lastly, on the question with regard to portfolio, we have actually a very comprehensive DSA website or National JC website. So do visit that. The requirements for the portfolio and the write-up is listed there. All right, so that's all for me. Thank you.
Okay, so sorry. All right, so I know that I am up to talk about art and music. So for DSA art, for you to pursue art in NJC under DSA art, it's for 4 years. So if you do want to take art until JC level, then that will be thereafter your time in a DSA art. So our art program, we cover an extensive part. So it's art study. So it's not just about practicing. It's not just about art forms. We actually study about how art is created. So there's art history. We study about how we carry out certain tasks. So we call that elegant tasks. And then how do we actually process and then resolve these using the art and the way of thinking. So I also see that some people are asking about whether you can apply to both NJC and SOTA. SOTA has a very different program from ours. SOTA's art program actually leads on to a IB program. So ours is actually a A-level program. And I believe that SOTA's application is a different, is on a different scheme. So I can only say safely for NJC's art program. Yeah, so so what will be covered in art programs? So apart from just only the main artists that are covered in, say, for example, the A-level syllabus, there are other things that we cover as well. Like the different mediums, so getting the students to be comfortable understanding different art forms, getting them to explore beyond their comfort zone. So someone who comes in who is really strong in, say, drawing has to be experienced or at least exposed to other forms like sculpturing, pottery, and so on. So we hope that via different mediums and schemes, students will be able to try and stretch themselves beyond what they are comfortable in, and eventually find an area that they are able to create their final piece of work upon graduation. Yeah. There are many ways of entering AEP, not just via DSA. All students who are eligible as a student in NJC can try to apply to be part of the AEP. So it varies from year to year about the percentage of art students. Certain years we do have more students who are coming in via the usual PSLE route, because it really depends on the quality of students every year. There is no cap to the number of students that are allowed into AEP. Okay, so now we'll go on to talk about the music program. So music program is an academic program. So students who want to DSA under the music program comes in to do music studies. So they study music beyond the ABRSM theory. It's not just only about performance as well. So for DSA music, students get to experience a whole exposure of what music is going to be like. So that's going to be music studies. So you study history, culture, and music composition, or perception, learning how to conduct music as well. So it's a whole range of things that you're being exposed. So it's not just only playing and playing of music and just theory. Yeah. Okay, so that's also a very common question. So as mentioned by Mr. Sham, our year head, it is very, it depends every year on the students who apply for the program. I mean, it ranges because it's also not just only when we offer, students will take the offer as well. So I mean, I think in the last few years we have had about four or five students who have accepted and have come in under the DSA music program. There is again no limit to the number of vacancies. Okay, yeah, so I think I've answered the question about SOTA. Yeah, so we do take in visual arts for DSA, so that's under the MOE Art Elective Program. Yeah. I also see that some of the parents are asking the difference between DSA music and, say, for example, DSA Chinese orchestra. So DSA Chinese orchestra is under a CCA, so that's 4 years of commitment to the CCA. It's not a music program, which is an academic one. Okay, so for this one about MOE art, for DSA application, we only need to submit the portfolio upon receiving the email from our admissions office. So somewhere in June, when MOE closes the application, our admissions team will send out an email to all the AEP applicants, calling them to submit the portfolio, and the portfolio submission must be in line with the requirements that are placed on the website. Yeah. Can a student choose to drop out AEP in Sec 2 non-DSA? Okay, because AEP is an MOE program, so it's actually a 4 years commitment, regardless of whether you are DSA or not, because it's a MOE program that is supported by MOE. So for withdrawals from AEP, it's actually a process that requires MOE's approval.
Of your comments or questions. And I think I repeat myself because just now I probably not heard. As I said earlier, I have read through your comments and your questions, and I would like to make some observations as well as give probably a bit of advice as to how you can think through the issue, whether it's DSA or some other matter. Most of the questions are on DSA. I know it's something that parents are all concerned about with regard to how selection is done, what are the requirements, and so on. My colleague has mentioned that, my colleague Sham, has mentioned that we look for students who have commitment to a particular area in terms of DSA. Say, for example, if your child wants to come in through hockey, or your child wants to come in through the band, there's a certain level of commitment, right? And we like to see that in the child. What is very important for the DSA process is not so much the talent that the child has. Talent must be added with commitment. We have experienced that my child came in with DSA with talent, and after a while, the commitment wasn't there. And I think that does not help the child. So, as I said earlier in my opening address, the dispositions of the child is critical. By asking practical questions, I think sometimes we forget that we have to look at the child and ask ourselves, is my child able to commit to something that he or she has so-called signed on to? Commitment is important because it reflects the characteristics and the values of a person or a child. Right? So what is important, right? It's not so much to ask about what are the commitments of how much time is being spent and so on. I can assure all parents that when it comes to commitment and time, it is really not as critical as your child's commitment to that particular area of interest. Because we do not want, in terms of commitment of time and so on, for your child to be overly committed in that. When I say commitment to an area of interest, I mean your child's pursuit of excellence in the area of interest. That is more important. So, now I give you some tips on how we select. When we interview your child, we will be able to draw from your child whether he or she is committed through the questions we ask. I know some of you may have read kiasuparents.com. I also go into that, and there is one particular agency, I'm not too sure which agency, how to ace your DSA interviews. There's no such thing as acing a DSA interview, because we will ask questions that will sort of draw from your child, right? Beyond just the area of interest. We will look into the commitment of the child, the dispositions of the child, what we look for in terms of our value systems, in terms of our motto, service with honor. With regard to the facilities, there's one question which appeared just now. We are working towards improving the facilities. It is as good as any other school. You can't hear me? Can you hear me? Okay, anyway, I will try to speak a bit louder. Right? So what I'm saying earlier is that for DSA, if your child is selected for interview, right, we will ask questions that will draw out certain characteristics of your child. Right? The value systems, the values your child possess, the commitment to the area of interest, the service mindset that we have in National Junior College, and what your child ultimately want to grow up to be. Okay, so these are more important for us than just being very good at a particular sport or very good at a particular aesthetic area. Let me just go out for a while and find out what is the problem with the lagging. I'll come back in again if necessary, and see how we can restore the audio without it being in the lagging state. Benzi, can you take over? Thanks. I'll come back in again.
CCAs that we have offered for the DSA are basically the CCAs that we have for our entire junior high. Now, on average, every year we can admit, including the PSLE posted students, about 200 students. 200 students, proportionally a bit more girls. I would say on average maybe 130 to 140 girls and 60 to 70 boys. I cannot explain the reason why girls do better than the boys in PSLE. So you have to understand, if we have too many CCAs, we cannot form teams, and we will not be able to send them for competitions and all that, because our resources will be spread. So I would like to mention that the CCAs that offer for DSA are the actual CCAs that are available for all the junior high. That's number one. Now, if you come in via the PSLE, can you change CCA? Yes. But of course, it's taken on a case-by-case basis. You are strongly encouraged to stay with the CCA for the 4 years. Now, our school is a bit different in the sense that every child, including this DSA, when they come into National Junior College, for the first 6 months, they do this thing called the CAFE program. So for 6 months, everybody that in Junior High 1, they do not have a CCA, they will join the CAFE program where they will trial out. So during these 6 months, those that come in through the PSLE intake, they can choose their CCA after semester 1. So they have 6 months to actually trial out many CCAs and then come to a conclusion as to what they want. Now, for the DSA students, of course, the CCA that they come in through via DSA, they should follow it. But if they are able to cope and they show that they are able to manage their time well, they can offer another CCA as a second CCA. Okay. As I mentioned, the distribution roughly has been about 130 girls, 140 girls to about 60 to 70 boys. NJC does not have an O-level track. We assure you that we will take very good care of your child and they will do well. Okay, so basically the school fees is, we follow every government school fees. We are a public school. For PR, it's about $400. For international students, it's about $1,200 a month. For PR, it's about $400 a month. For international ASEAN school students, it's about $800 a month. In case we're not able to answer many of your questions, you can either email me. My details are on our school staff website under the yearhead, or you can email the generic email njc@moe.edu.sg, and we will get to your queries as soon as possible. Okay. Yeah. Right now, the criteria for the IP program in Junior High 1 and 2, which is Secondary 1 and 2, is you have to pass LA, which is the English equivalent, and 5 other subjects. Okay. Yeah. Okay, that's all from me.
Hello, hi. Hello, everyone. This is Madam Woon, Yok Fan here. Okay, I'm actually taking one of the question on the higher mother tongue, whether it's mandatory to take in NJC. Okay, we will be offering a higher mother tongue to those who are eligible. So right now I'm referring to the website of on MOE website. The criteria to take the higher mother tongue is actually an overall score or PSLE score of 8 or better, or an overall score of 9 to 14 inclusive, and attain AL1 or AL2 in mother tongue, or distinction or merit in higher mother tongue. So for those who are actually eligible, right, we'll be offering the higher mother tongue for them. For the rest, they'll be reading the express mother tongue. Okay, for those who are doing higher mother tongue for the first 2 years, JH1 and JH2, if they have difficulty in coping the subject, not to worry, they can actually change to express mother tongue at the end of JH2, meaning they will be taking the subject express mother tongue in JH3. Okay, so the assessment is based on the overall result for that particular year, meaning the JH2. Okay. And for us to for those who are doing higher mother tongue or mother tongue, our our aim is actually to get students to learn the language in a vibrant environment. Although for students who are taking higher mother tongue, they'll be attempting the O-level higher mother tongue examination at the end of year 4 and getting a minimum pass for that subject to have to attain the minimum requirement to enter university. Okay, but for those who are not taking the higher mother tongue, they will be taking the A-level examination, the H1 mother tongue examination in year 5, meaning JC1. And same thing, they will need to get the minimum pass to get the minimum requirement to enter local university. So just now I was mentioning about having students to study in NJC in a vibrant environment for the language itself. We're actually offering some kind of like enrichment programs for them. Okay, so they'll be also doing the subject based on MOE syllabus. Okay, they will have to learn the language with the textbook, with the MOE book and all that. But then we will be actually having our in-house program as well for them. For example, GH1 will be having the movie appreciation, and this is for them to learn how to be more expressive, because after they watch a movie, a short video clip, they'll be learning some kind of essay techniques, okay, essay writing techniques. And then for JH2, there'll be song appreciation to learn about metaphor, some of the writing skill as well. And moving on to JH3, right, there'll be forum discussion for them. So they will have to something like a role play, expressing their views on current affairs with a perspective. And then for JH4, right, they'll be trying on to sharpening their debate skills. So they will have to learn to be a very independent thinker and a critical thinker. Okay, so these are some of the examples. Okay, and I also saw one question on Hindi, whether it's being offering in NJC. Okay, students who are taking Hindi we will not be having an in-house program for them. They will be doing the subject in the Saturday classes. And for the third language, I also saw one question on third language. Yes, we do have third language, but it's same thing, same arrangement. They'll be doing the third languages in the MOELC. And subjects regarding to third language will be like German, Spanish, and then also Japanese and French. Yeah, I hope I have answered all your questions. Thank you.
Hi. Hello. Okay. Yes. So about the some of the questions about music program and the CCA commitment. So again, because music program is an academic program, so for anyone who wants to do music, you're actually free to take up any CCA that's offered to the junior high level. So meaning that if you are a music program student, you are actually free to go on to take whether is it a performing arts CCA or even sports and games CCA. So like, for example, we do have like some of our music students who are in the softball CCA as well as track and field. We also have AAP students. So I also noticed one of the questions asked was about AAP students who do they need to take art club as another commitment. So no, they are actually also free to take up any of the JH CCAs. So for pupils under the music program, will they take music as an additional subject? Yes, music is considered an elective subject that they will take over and above their current curriculum. The other questions that I noticed as well would be your DSA Art and AEP. Are they the same thing? Yes, they are the same thing when it comes to the junior high section. For the senior high section, DSA Art can be it's actually for the DSA as in aesthetics club. So for those who are looking at DSA Art as your senior high DSA application, DSA Art and DSA AEP is not the same thing. So again, DSA Art and DSA AEP is not the same thing for the senior high level, but at junior high level, DSA AEP it's basically one and the same. It is the art academic program. Also, there are some questions about performing arts CCA commitments. So for the performing arts CCA commitments on general, in general, for all performing arts CCAs, the level of commitment is going to be 2 to 3 times a week, and each practice can be 3 to 4 hours long, and that's typical regardless of a school or CCA. There are peak periods as well when it's nearing towards SYF. Of course, there might be more practices, but generally most of the CCAs for performing arts are up to 3 times a week. Okay, I noticed another question that talks about music program. Is it offered during school time? Music program is a subject that will be offered after school hours. And AP is a subject that is examinable because it's an academic subject.
Hello. So there are some more questions on DSA STEAM, and just now I mentioned about the one unique point for DSA STEAM is the mentorship that our dedicated STEAM teachers offer across the years of a student in NJC. This is only for DSA STEAM students, so we do not offer this mentorship to any other students. Having said this, there are so many other programs in NJ. I can just cite one example in research. And in NJ, our niche area, one of our niche areas is in research. And throughout the years, our team of teachers have been taking care of students, guiding students, mentoring them from when they are in JH1 all the way to senior high 2. And our students have grown under the tutelage of our mentors, both teachers in NJ and also in external institutes, to the point that they can go out on the international platform and compete and learn from all the international schools. So this is just one of the many examples of the dedication that our teachers put in to know and understand our students, to mentor our students and guide them in a differentiated way across their years in NJ. So there are many other opportunities for students to pursue their interest in under the mentorship of our teachers. Moving on, the selection criteria. I mentioned just now that the detailed requirement, the criteria for DSA STEAM and in fact all other DSA programs is in our website at National JC. So please refer to that. Echoing what our principal, Mr. Ang, said just now, we are looking for a service mentality. That means students with the passion to serve, to better the community. So it's good that your kid has some basic background in, say, coding, but I think what's more important is his or her interest and passion in STEAM and how he or she can use it to better and serve the community. Yeah, that's all from me. Thank you.
Your parents, I hope you can hear me better now. I've shifted location so that you will be able to, I would say, as I said earlier, hear me more clearly. I'd like to address one particular question which I think is important. What kind of child will thrive in National Junior College? I think this is fundamental with regard to how you select the school for your child. Of course, the child must qualify. If the child doesn't qualify through DSA. I will repeat what I've said about DSA, right? Because there's so many questions about DSA. Okay, number one, I think my colleague has already mentioned, when we say talent, we also look for students with raw talent. This is a very clear statement that we have made since DSA started. I make that statement because I want to see children who have not gone for all kinds of classes in preparation for DSA to be able to come to National Junior College. We want to give every child an opportunity. What is most important, and I repeat myself, is that when we interview your child, right, we look for a value system, the values that your child have or has. We also look for a service mindset, as my colleague Alan has mentioned. We do not look for practice answers. Because if you look for answers that your child has practiced, why you want to join National Junior College, what are your qualities, what do you know about National Junior College, you will not be able to surface that kind of student that we want. We want a student who will grow up to know that he or she can lead a fulfilling life. He or she can contribute to the wider community, and he or she can serve others well. This is fundamental. My voice is still breaking up. Maybe I speak a bit slower. Right? I hope you have heard what I've said. Let me find out what is the. Okay, I think you have heard me about service mindset. Service mindset essentially, right? It's not about ourselves alone. The service mindset is really about, do we care for others? Do we have a commitment to be able to help others? Because students who come to National Junior College are actually at the top end of their cohort. As I said, 7% or top 7%, right? And if they are top end, what they need is not just to perform well or very well academically alone. They have to reach out to others. This is important. And for me, who have been in National Junior College for 8 years, next year will be my 9th year. What gratifies me is that NJC students are known to be helpful, to be cooperative, and at the same time, wanting to excel. They are not contradictory. Okay? As I said, these are the students that we want. And these are the students that ultimately will benefit not just himself or herself, but the wider segment of society. And we must remember, Singapore that your child lives in the next 20, 30, 40, 50 years will require all of us to work together. We know what has happened now in the pandemic situation, and we know that the future will not be any easier. So what is critical for all of us is to bring up our children in a way that the child can serve not only himself and the wider community. I think what can happen is that you think through very carefully, right, how you make a choice for a particular school. I have stated what we stand for. I have stated what we want from your child, so that your child will ultimately benefit when he or she joins National Junior College. Thank you. I'll stop here, and I'll try to find another place where the internet access is much better. Thank you.
Hi all. Hi all. Okay, maybe I will show you how to go to our website and how to find out what's the specific criteria for our DSA. Now, first thing is you have to go to our school website, nationaljc.moe.edu.sg. Now, once you go there, you look for the hamburger bar. Okay, you look for admissions. Once you go into admissions, look for IPDSA. Okay, so again, nationaljc.moe.edu.sg, look for the hamburger bar, and then look for admissions, followed by IPDSA. Now, under IPDSA, you can see all the sports and games, all the performing arts. There's a link to show you a description of all what the CCAs are about. And if you scroll down, what's important is there's this thing called the selection process, and it says the specific criteria that we are looking for in every talent area. So maybe I'll just give you an example. For canoeing, the criteria what we look up for is psychomotor coordination and balance. For the criteria for music program, for STEAM, it's all written down there. So I'll just read to you the criteria for STEAM: ability to empathize with others, problem from multiple angles, strong curiosity, innovative, creative, critical, evaluative, quick thinker. All these are available on our school website. Okay, to answer the question, which I think is a very good question from our experience, who are the good students that come in here? The first thing I'd like to advise you is, I think times have changed, and it's no longer you tell your child and your child listen. It does not work anymore. Even we have changed the way we manage children. My advice would be for you and your child to really go and do your homework by attending many talks and finding out what is the best fit. That's number one. The kids that do well here, I promise you, are those that are very happy to come to school. They do not have to be, there's not a lot of hand-holding and micromanaging from the parents. The kids are independent. Now, I'm not saying you must let go straight away from Sec 1. What you have to do is what I see from the successful kids, the kids that I say successful, I don't refer to being academically successful. I mean holistically. We are not a grade-centric school. Academics is not the be-all and end-all. We are very process-driven, and we want the kids to, we emphasize our 4 core values, which are civility, altruism, resilience, and entrepreneur there. This is what we want for the kids. The kids that do well are those that are very happy to come to school. The parents slowly give autonomy to the kids, and the kids really know how to manage their time really well. I would think time management is the key because there are just so many programs. So there'll be so many programs, it's like a buffet. You cannot eat everything. What's important is you make informed decisions and choose the right ones. Okay, I had a question about third language. Now, what we do is third language is not held in the school. So if your child were to come to school, what we will do is tell your child to have third language either on Tuesday or Thursday. This is because of other requirements, extra additional programs, CCA and all that, etc. So if your child were to come here, third language will be communicated to be held on either Tuesday or Thursday. And it's external, which means after school, they have to go for this program. Okay, that's all from me. Thank you.
All right. Thank you, everyone, for the questions, and of course to my colleagues, all right, for sharing the responses. I think we would like to come to a close soon. Just to sum a few matters up. First and foremost, very importantly, we have heard us say a few times already this morning that really at NJC here for the DSA admissions, we are looking out for students with the right dispositions, with some talent, and more importantly, the interest and the potential, right, to do well in the various talent areas. And there will be a shortlisting process. Shortlisted applicants will be asked to perform certain tasks, and of course, go through an interview during which we will try our best, right, to evaluate the student, right, for the fit to NJC and our school community over here. There was a question as to whether there will be face-to-face physical trials in the college. Owing to the COVID situation across all schools for this year, just like last year, there will not be any face-to-face sessions. So you can imagine that the performance task, say for a sports CCA, could include, for example, shooting some hoops, doing a few jumps, all right, and some other tasks that are unique and relevant, right, to each of the different sports. Same for the performing arts. While we will not see the child or the student in person, right, we will through video conferencing, right, be able to see the child perform, say, a prepared piece, perhaps do some skills if you're talking about music, and also to some for some, all right, that there might be skills such as ability to sight read, right, that would be evaluated. More importantly, a huge part, okay, of the interviews will be the actual interview itself, and that's where we will be looking out for once again the student's disposition and whether he or she is a good fit to NJC. All right. So with that, I think we'll take this part of today's e-open house to a close. Next up at 10:30 as well as at 11:10 a.m., we will have our students this time, our junior high students here to interact with all of you to share the experiences as well. So if you have any questions for them, you can already continue to post them on Facebook or on YouTube. They'll try their best to answer them later. So stay tuned. And on behalf of all of us at NJC, we look forward to seeing all of you here. Thank you very much and have a nice day.
Yeah.
Okay. In case Benzi may.
Hello parents and P6ers, and a very warm welcome to our 2021 May Open House stage live stream. I am Evelyn Hao from Secondary 3, and I am from Student Orchestra. I will be your moderator for this session. Today here with us, we have 5 panelists who will be more able to share their experience with NJC with all of you and to clarify any doubts that you may have. You may comment your set of questions in the comment section down below in the Facebook or YouTube live stream. Meanwhile, our panelists will be giving you a short introduction about themselves. Megan, would you like to start us off?
Hello parents and P6ers. I'm Megan from GH107 and I DSA softball in the NJC.
Hello parents and P6ers, I'm Ushan from GH204 and I DSA Western Dance into NJC.
Hello everyone, I am Edith from GH305 and my CCA is Chinese Orchestra. I do not have any electives, however, my subject combination is triple science with history.
Hello parents and students, I am Yancy from JH301 and I'm currently in choir for my CCA. For my subject combination, I am taking the art elective program and the advanced language arts program with biology and chemistry.
Hello parents, my name is Zoran and I'm JH4 this year. I'm from 406 and I'm a DSA student into the guitar ensemble. I take Math and Ideas as my elective.
Thank you, panelists. Now, before we move on, our principal, Mr. Ang, would like to make a few words. Mr. Ang, please.
Thank you. I hope you can hear me better now. I apologize for not being able to be heard. And I heard from my colleagues that I sounded squeaky. That's not how I sound. That's how I look, but that's not how I sound. My facial features are as they are. My voice, I hope, is different now. I'd like to reiterate what I've said at the beginning and also later when I address some of the DSA questions. Number one, I said at the beginning that we look for certain dispositions in NJC students. Number one, the learning to learn attitude, as you will be able to hear from the students later. Number two, a service mentality, that we are not here just to help ourselves. We are here as we grow through the 6 years of National Junior College, that we have a value system that allows the child eventually, when he leaves school, to have this service mentality to serve others. This is very critical. So if your child were to come to National Junior College, these are the dispositions we look for. Number two, DSA. Some of you asked about DSA questions. For me, as my colleagues have mentioned, what is important for DSA is not so much how good you are in a particular sport, CCA, or an aesthetic activity. We may not choose the best or the number one in a particular sport. What we look for are the qualities I referred to earlier. So the questions we ask will be about a certain mindset that a child has, a certain value system that a child has, which aligns with what we are looking for. What are our values? Our values are civility, altruism, resilience, and enterprise. And also the motto that we have, service with honor. So for interviews, those students selected for interviews for DSA, we look for students with such qualities. We do not just look for, you must be the best. No, because when you come into National Junior College, your child will be properly trained, will be properly developed, will be properly mentored to be who or she could be. So if you think that my child is the best and therefore I should come into a certain school, in particular NJC, think again, because there are other qualities that we look for. Right? We might even choose one, and we have practically no training at all, raw talent. And I believe that we should offer students a chance to come to an IP school with raw talent. Finally, when your child comes to National Junior College, I want to assure everyone that we do not have an O-level track. My personal belief in the 8 years that I've been here, next year is my 9th year, and I have relayed that to my colleagues, that we will help every child. Every child has different talents, right? Your child may not be good in the sciences. It's fine, as long as he or she tries. He may eventually end up in the humanities stream. So when we look at the results of a child, we look at how the child has not just performed in every subject, but why he or she has performed well in certain subjects and not as well in other subjects because of certain dispositions. And they might be better going to a certain so-called stream, right? Or science stream or art stream than something that he or she may not be able to cope as well. I say again, in National Junior College, we emphasize a lot on mental wellness, social emotional wellness. And I take personal pride in being able to address these issues because I consider them very important. As my colleagues have mentioned, we want our child to learn happily here. Happily doesn't mean it is fun all the time. Happily means the child must strive, but in that striving, the child will find joy in the learning. It's not going to be easy. They may not perform well in the examinations. That's not, again, the most critical factor. What is most important is that have they put in the effort? And if they put in the effort, what happened? We will find out, and we will ensure that we will help the child as much as we could. On your part as parents, my advice is very simple. Your child is transitioning from primary 6 to secondary school. The results will not be as you expect. Please expect a drop because the demands are different, because your child is learning a lot more things, right? The child is growing through a different phase of his or her life. When a child enters teenage years, there are many other things that occupy them, right? Puberty, so many other issues, mental changes, social emotional changes, and we attend to that. For me, what is most important, and I repeat myself, I want your child to find joy in learning. I want your child to find for herself who she or he would be 10 years, 20 years, 30 years down the road. My first question to every child who enters National Junior College, and I've repeated that many times with every batch, who will you be 20 years down the road? And what has NJC done for you to be the person that you are 20 years, 30 years down the road, 40 years down the road? Because please do not forget, right? Your child, based on the current projections on working age and mortality age, will have many decades ahead of him or her. And what is important to me in particular as a school is to develop and build in every child a core set of values and the dispositions to be able not only to do things for himself or herself, but also for the wider community. This is what NJC stands for, This is what NJC will continue to stand for. 50 years in 2019. This is our 52nd year. We have never changed our motto, service with honor. So remember, when your child comes to NJC, I think our reputation is that your child is well cared for. We ensure that we know every child. My colleagues, the subject heads, the year heads, the teacher mentors, they all know your child very well. And we will do the best that we can to ensure that every child will do well in National Junior College. I'm not just saying academically, I'm saying in every aspect. Because all of you know, in this day and age, it is a very complex world and children have become very much more complex. Sometimes we don't even know who they are and why they do certain things. I've talked to many children and always ask them, who do you think you are? What do you need to do in order to become the person that you will be? These are fundamental questions. This is an educational question, and this is something that we focus on. Number one, social emotional wellness. Number two, mental wellness. That must be fundamental. So your child who join us will always be well taken care of. We have 200 students every cohort. I will always look at the photographs. It's on school cockpit and ask myself, do I know this child well enough? And I also welcome parents to speak with us, to share your concerns, to share your views about education. My belief is that every parent would want the best for the children. They could be anxious, they could be a bit tigerish, tiger moms and tiger dads. From my perspective, I understand where you come from. I understand your anxiety. I understand your concerns. My teachers understand your anxiety. My teachers understand your concern. My most memorable experience in NJC has always been with students, right? How they have outperformed themselves in terms not just of academic wellness, in terms of how they have changed from a little child to an 18-year-old student who knows so much more and believes so much more about something that is good for others. Thank you very much and have a good day. Thank you.
All right.
Yeah, go
Thank
ahead.
you so much, Mr. Ang. Thank you, Mr. Ang. Okay, so due to technical difficulties, I'll be taking over as the moderator for this Q&A session. Hi, everyone. My name is Christy. I am a secondary 4 student, and my CCA is choir. So as what Evelyn had said just now, you guys can start to key in your questions in the comment section of the YouTube or Facebook live stream. All right. So we'll start with the Q&A session. And the first question that we have over here is a question by Mui Gyok. So Mui Gyok asked, why do you choose NJC? Edith, would you like to answer this question?
Yeah, sure. Thank you. So a reason that of why I decided to choose NJC is firstly because of the boarding. So NJC has a very unique boarding program experience for students, which is available from all levels. So when researching about secondary schools, I found out about NJC's really unique boarding experience for JH students. So each cohort gets a chance to stay in boarding for like one whole term for each of the 4 years we are in JH. So I thought that this experience really helped me to grow, as staying in boarding school required me to be independent and I'll be able to make new friends. So through my experience in staying in boarding in JH1, I really made many new friends. I'm able to enjoy staying in boarding with my friends. So thus this attracted me to join NJ. So other than that, like NJC also has many different interesting subjects. So some examples on the interesting subjects that we have is thinking, drama, and Spire. So Spire is a science research program that is unique to NJ. So my favorite subject is thinking, as I found that the content taught in class is very interesting. So they actually teach about the different fallacies and how we can categorize information. So of course, there are also different skills that are taught. So drama is only offered in GH1, which is a very enriching experience. It enables me to learn how to be more confident when speaking to a big crowd, and the lessons are all very engaging. I managed to learn how to act and how to write the scripts, etc. And I also learned how to express my emotions clearly. Thank you.
All right, thank you so much, Edith. So next we have a question. And the question is asking, how do you cope with the workload? Yancy, would you like to answer this question?
Sure. Hi. So the workload in NJC is actually quite manageable. Usually for most assignments or homework, we are given a long time frame, and so it's up to us to kind of regulate how we want to allocate our time to complete our work. So in that way, it's actually quite manageable. But if your child or whoever it may be in NJC is experiencing some discomfort and would like to have some support in their managing their work, NJC has a lot of support systems ready for your child. So for adults, your child can actually seek remedial lessons, or in NJ we call them consultations, to ask for additional support on academic subjects if they need it. And they can also seek help from peers if they need it, such as peer support leaders. And peer support leaders in our school are trained to help your child both academically and in other aspects if they require it. In addition to this, our school counselor is also always open for booking, and your child can easily book a slot with your school counselor. As Mr. Ang said earlier, NJC really emphasizes on learning happily. Thank you.
All right, thank you so much, Yancy. So next we have a question. So the question is asking, students, what are your most memorable moments during your lives at NJC in and out of school? So I think we will have two students to answer this question. So first, could we please have Megan to answer this question? So since Megan is a secondary 1 student, she'll be able to tell you what are the memorable moments that she has experienced so far in NJC.
I think for me, one of my most memorable experiences was orientation, the week-long orientation. Firstly, because we get to meet new friends who are going to be our classmates for the next 2 years. And also we get to forge bonds with seniors, and we also get to learn new things from them too. And secondly, it was during cafe, which also stands for co-curricular activities for exposure. In cafe, we were able to try out new activities in both sports and performing arts. And since I was a DSA for sports, I was really excited to experience the CCAs that is involved in performing arts. So I chose Chinese orchestra, and from there I was able to learn many new instruments such as the cello. So I think those are my two most memorable moments in NJC.
Okay, thank you, Megan. Edith, would you like to answer this question as well?
Yep, sure. So one of my most memorable moments during in NJC in and out of school is firstly boarding. So actually in boarding there are many different activities. So for secondary 1, I was able to experience camp where I'm able to actually travel outside of school together with my classmates and to be able to have some fun. So we walked around botanics and orchard, and it was really fun because we get to know our classmates better. So other than that, there's also post-exam activities which I find that it's really fun. So for GH2, we actually have ice skating when NJC, the school actually helps to book the ice rink for students to actually be able to have ice skating after exams. So this is to ensure there will be a good work-play balance for the students, so that students are able to relax and enjoy themselves after their exams. Yeah, thank you.
All right, thank you so much, Edith. Okay, so next you have a question. And the question is, are boys encouraged to DSA dance into NJC? So Yushen, could you please answer this question? So for context, Yushen is a Western dance DSA and she'll have a good idea about this whole process.
In Western dance, there's actually many boys who actually DSA. I have quite a few seniors that DSA and they are boys. So I think that actually Western dance is a very accepting environment where both genders can use Western dance as a form of art to express themselves. So I think boys are definitely encouraged to DSA any kind of dance, not just Western dance, into NJC. Thank you.
All right, thank you so much, Ishan. Okay, next we have a question. What do you do in boarding? Okay, so Zaron, would you like to answer this question? Since Zaron is a secondary 4 student, he has experienced both the physical boarding program as well as the self-mastery program.
So right now, the boarding program is unavailable due to COVID-19. So we have the SM Plus program. So what the SM Plus program is basically a program where we offer the same boarding programs that we would do normally, just without staying in the boarding school to minimize the spread of the virus. What we do in SM Plus really is like movie night, or we have a programming workshop that certain students do, and you might really enjoy if you're really into coding. As for if COVID-19 was over, maybe in the next 2 years or so, boarding program will be around 4 to 6 weeks long. You'll be bunking in with your classmates, and it's a really good place to bond with them, really get to know each other on a deeper level in a way that you will not be able to do without boarding. So yeah, that's generally the gist of what we do in boarding.
All right, thank you so much, Zaron. So next up, we have a question, which is, are examinations hard in NJC? Yancy, would you like to answer this question?
Hi, so I wouldn't say that the examinations are particularly hard in NJC, but of course this is kind of subjective. I would say that as long as you kind of pay attention in class, do your pre-reading and your revision, the examinations will be quite manageable. In addition, in NJC, most of our examinations are continual assessments, which means that they are just small tests that take place throughout the year that have a lower percentage, so that we won't be too stressed up over the examinations. Yeah, thank you.
All right, thank you so much, Yancy. Okay, so next up, we have a question from Wee Liu. So she's asking, can DSA students join the cafe program? So maybe Yushan, would you like to elaborate more about this?
The cafe program is actually open for all students in NJC, including DSAs and non-DSAs. And for the DSA students, they can either, for example, I'm a Western Dance DSA. So for the Performing Arts Cafe, I chose dance, of course. And for sports, I chose canoeing. So the DSA students can actually choose things besides their original CCA to try out and then have a better knowledge of the different CCAs in NJ. And I feel like this really benefits us because usually people would think that DSA students, they just only need to care about their own TCA. But in NJ, everyone everyone has knowledge of different CCAs due to this whole cafe program. And that really helps us bond together, especially since one class goes for like a sports cafe or one class goes for a performing arts cafe at a time. So it really helps the whole class bond together, especially if they're in the same cafe. Thank you.
All right, thank you so much, Ishan. Okay, next up, we have another question about the food in NJC. So Dennis Low asks, what are the canteen foods available at NJC and what are your favorites? Megan, would you like to answer this question?
Thank you. So the canteen foods available at NJC, there's a wide variety. For example, there's chicken rice, Japanese food, cai fan, which is also economic rice, two drink stalls, one snack stall, and a noodle stall. For me, my personal favorite is the chicken rice. Firstly, because the rice that they give is very, very fragrant, and the soup is not like the usual soup that you can get anywhere else. Even if it doesn't have any ingredients, it is still very nice as it's very flavorful. Secondly, the chicken that they give is super soft, and they do not give the skin usually, as it gives us a healthier choice, and so that we do not get fat. Yeah, thank you.
Okay, thank you so much, Megan. And I agree, I love that stall too. Okay, so next we have another question. What is a typical day in NJC? Edith, would you like to answer this?
Yeah, sure. Thank you. So a typical day in NJC, school actually starts at 7:40. We will have to report in school at 7:40 a.m. every day except for Thursdays, as Thursdays is a late day where we only have to report to school at 8:40. So lesson starts at either 8 or 8:20 sometimes, and on Thursdays it starts at 9. So normally we have lessons until like in the middle of the day there will be about a 40 minutes break. So for some students, like some classes, they'll have an 1 hour break instead of a 40 minutes break. So this allows like students to be able to relax and enjoy and take a rest, take a break after lessons. So after recess, they'll continue to have lessons until dismissal timing. So for GH1s and GH2s, normal dismissal timings will be about 12:20 to 2 p.m. around there. While for GH3 and GH4 students, it'll be around 1 p.m. to 2 p.m. However, if your child is to take up any electives, the dismissal timing would vary and they might have to stay in school for the electives until 4 p.m. So having getting dismissed at about 2 p.m. actually enables students to be able to go back home earlier and have a rest before they can start doing what they like and start doing their homework. Yes, thank you.
All right, thank you so much, Edith. Okay, next up, we have a question. What is the one trait in a student that will allow her or him to thrive in NJC? Zeron, would you like to answer this question?
All right. So one trait that I think will allow students to thrive in NJC is actually one of NJC's very own traits, altruism. Altruism, as defined, is the principle and moral practice of concern for happiness of other human beings or other animals. So if we care for one another, in turn, we will reciprocate that same kindness. And I think that, as a student in NJC, it's very important to exhibit this kind of mutual concern with one another, especially when you're working on a group project. As NJC is an IP program, there are a lot of projects where students have to work together, Spire, STEAM, all these projects, you require a lot of cooperation with one another. And I feel that without altruism, these projects would crumble. And it's very important for students to practice this to get things done efficiently. And it also helps to build a certain camaraderie or a certain level of trust between the group mates. I feel that trust between the group mates will allow the project to progress smoother, allowing you to delegate jobs faster as well. And so altruism, one of the most important traits to thrive in NJC.
Okay, thank you so much, Zeron, and I agree, altruism is indeed very important. So next we have another question. How are the subjects selected? If a student prefers biology, will there be a limit to the number of students that each subject can be offered to? Yancy, would you like to answer this question?
Hello. So in lower JH or lower secondary, in terms of sciences, there is no triple science or double science. Instead, we have integrated sciences where all three sciences are integrated into one module. For integrated sciences, we will go for lab lessons every week. And in these lab lessons, we can learn about integrated sciences. An example of this is learning about the chemical reactions taking place in biomolecule or biological food tests. And in this way, we can learn about the multiple sciences. So there will be no limit to the number of the number of students that each subject can be offered to exactly. If you would like to know more about the subject combinations, you can definitely look up on our NJC website, and we do have all the subject combinations located there. Yeah, thank you.
Okay, thank you so much, Yancy. All right, so next up, we have a question. How does NJC help you settle into secondary school life? Okay, Megan, would you like to answer this question?
Yeah. Okay, so NJC helps you settle the secondary school life by having nurturing teachers, amazing seniors, and amazing friends too. So firstly, our teachers, which could also stand for personal mentors, which could also then stand for PMs. Our PMs are very nurturing, and since from primary school to secondary school, we did not have history and geography. So for example, during history class, if you do not understand a question, as it is a completely new subject, the teachers will help you for every question that you have, and they'll try their best to answer every question. And also, if you don't understand the question but then class has ended already, you can arrange for consultation with them anytime, as they would always help you. Secondly is the seniors. As I said earlier, cafe, and in term 3 you'll get a new CCA. So the seniors in these CCAs, or even in your direct class, they will always help you with anything. For example, my senior in softball, she always helps me with math questions when I ask her. And the bonds with the senior and juniors is very strong in NJC, so they will also help you fit nicely into the secondary school life. Lastly, it is the friends. The friends who are the same age as you, they will have like the same experience as you, and it will be completely new to them. So your friends and yourself will go into the NJC experience together and experience everything together, and they'll always help you out. Thank you.
Okay, thank you so much, Megan. Next, we have a question. What time does your day end with CCA practices? Edith, would you like to answer this one?
Yeah, sure. So, personally for me, as I'm in Chinese orchestra, I will have combined and sectionals, where combined is when the whole orchestra is able to practice to play a piece together, while sectionals is when we focus on our own instrument and like to practice our parts for a piece. So for me, for combined, normally it will end about 5:30, so it's about 2 hours. So I end school at 2 p.m. and CCA starts about 3:30, or sometimes even earlier than that. So there'll be this time when I'm able to enjoy my lunch, and if there's extra time, I'll be able to start doing my homework and chit chat with my friends who is also in the same CCA as me. So it kind of differs for each CCA. For my CCA, it's normally 2 days per week and each 2 hours. However, for other CCA such as dance, maybe about 3 hours, or some CCA only has about 2 hours of practice per week. So it differs. It depends on the CCA, and the time that the day ends with the CCA practices also depends on the CCA. Yeah, thank you.
Okay, thank you so much, Edith. All right, next up. Does NJC offer third language? And if yes, what are the options and the criteria? Okay, so I think for the first half of the question, we can have Yancy answering. And for the second question, which is what is Men and Ideas subject about, Zeron can answer that question since he takes that elective. Okay? All right, Yancy can answer first.
Hello. So NJC does allow its students to take third language, but we do not necessarily offer it at our school. So your child would have to go to the MOELC center to take their third language. And as for the options, it will depend on the child, because usually the third language options are given based on the score that your child gets. So some examples will be French or Malay. And as I said earlier, they would have to take these subjects at the MOELC center. Yeah, thank you.
Okay, thank you. Then next, can Zeron share more about Men and Ideas?
All right, so Man and Ideas is essentially a subject which explores the logical and philosophical thinking of things. So in JH1 and JH2, students will be offered this subject called thinking. And in JH3 and JH4, it might be offered to those students who have an interest in thinking as an elective. So that's what I take right now. Man and Ideas really focuses on logical thinking, as I mentioned before, and it focuses on fallacies as well, logical fallacies, such as, for example, if A, then B, and then B, then C. If event A occurs, event C must also occur due to that logical sequence. These are just one of the examples of the things we learn in MI, and I think it's really helpful that we learn this subject, as it allows us to think more logically, first of all. Second of all, it also allows us to spot mistakes in normal common day thinking or stereotypes that might arise, and it might not be a very examinable subject in A levels, but at least for me, I take an interest in the subject and I really enjoy learning it. So yeah, thank you.
Okay, thank you so much, Zoran. So now I have time for a few more questions. So next up, we have a question. What are some of the common challenges faced by students when transitioning from primary school to secondary school? And what are the suggested strategies to overcome them? All right, Megan, would you like to answer this question?
Sure. Okay, so some of the common challenges faced by students when transiting from primary school to secondary school, firstly is the amount of stress and the amount of subjects that you have. For the amount of subjects, it goes from 4 subjects to at least 7 subjects. So when there are 7 subjects, you have to take more time to do each subject. For example, for history and geography, since it's a completely new subject, you have more problems understanding it. So that's one of the challenges faced. Also, it was the stress as from secondary school to primary school, you will have more homework to do. However, the teachers and your friends will always help you cope with them. So for me, the suggested strategies to overcome them will firstly because we have a timetable that you stick by to. And also, if you have any problems, you can ask the teacher for consultation. So thank you.
All right, thank you so much, Megan. Okay, also there's another question that is asking about whether there is no softball boys team. Would you like to talk more about that as well?
From JH1 to JH4, there is only a girls team for softball. So in JC1 and JC2, which is SH1 and SH2, your child can join the softball boys team as there will be a boys team. However, if you want your child to join in secondary one, you can if the child did not DSA to the CCA, you can contact the teacher in charge when school starts. Thank you.
All right, thank you so much. Okay, so now we have time for one last question. And the question is from, okay, so the question is about the ratio of boys to girls. So this person would like to find out what is the rough ratio of boys to girls in NJC. Edith, would you like to answer this question?
Okay, so the rough ratio of boys to girls in NJC is 3:1. So in my class, there's about 30 students. We have about 10 boys and 20 girls. So don't worry about your child not being able to make friends with the opposite gender. But actually, in my class, the girls and boys are like our class is very bonded, and we don't really have a certain barrier in between boys and girls, even though we're of opposite genders. So don't worry about it. And typically in NJ, boys and girls are very supportive of each other too, and we just treat each other normally as friends. So we support each other and help each other out in terms of needs, and helping each other in terms of academic and non-academic aspect, where we're able to tell each other how we feel, and if you have any problems, we're able to tell them and ask for their help. Yes, thank you.
All right, okay. Thank you so much for answering that question, Edith. And this also comes to the end of the panel 1 Q&A session. So thank you so much to everyone who came down today to watch our NJC Open House live stream. I do hope that this session was useful in helping you find the right secondary school. So there are still some questions that we have not answered yet. So there will be another Q&A session at 11:20 later by panel 2. So for more information, you guys may head to our NJC Open House YouTube playlist, as well as our Instagram or Facebook page. And if you'd like to find out more, you can also go to our NJC website. And that's all from panel 1, and we hope to see you in NJC. Okay, that's all from us. Bye! Okay. All right. Hi, everyone. Welcome back to our NJC E-Open House. I'm Christy, your moderator for the second session. And Evelyn will also be your moderator for today. Hi, Evelyn. Okay. So for our panel 2 session, we have another 5 students who are very passionate about answering your questions for NJC. So now, just as like the first session, you guys can start to type your questions in the comment section of the YouTube or Facebook live stream. Meanwhile, our panelists will start to introduce themselves first.
Good morning, P6ers and students and teachers and parents. I am Nabil from JH101 and I am from Canoeing.
Very good morning to all P6ers and parents. I'm Claudia, a secondary 2 student from JH207 and my CCA is track and field.
Good morning, I'm Lo Chan from JH02. I am in Chinese Orchestra and I take the Art Elective Program and Advanced Science module.
Good morning, P6s and parents. I'm Anandita. I'm from JH3. I DSA to NJC through choir and I take German as a third language.
Good morning, parents and P6ers. I'm Darmin from JH401. I DSA to NJC through track and field, and the electives I take are music program and advanced humanities.
All right. Okay. Thank you so much, panelists, for introducing yourselves. So without further ado, we're going to start with the panel 2 Q&A session. Okay. So we have a question about the selection criteria for the advanced science elective. So Luo Chang takes advanced sciences, and I think you'll be able to answer this question. Thank you, Luo Chang.
So the advanced science is an elective that works to expand on the knowledge of the students who have a specific interest in science and would want to pursue it further. So the criteria for selection is mostly based on your interest in science itself, which you can express in your first 2 years in an integrated science module that you will be having in JH1 and JH2 as students. So you can participate more in class, and this will help your teacher recognize that you have a certain passion for science and that you will want to further your understanding in the scientific fields. And another criteria to consider is academics, how you perform in science as well as other subjects. This is to see if you're able to cope with the advanced science module as an additional subject on top of all your other pre-existing subjects. So as to prevent you from experiencing burnouts or not being able to cope with your usual classes. Thank you.
All right, thank you so much, Luo Chang. Okay, so next we have a question from Jun Kai. So Jun Kai asks, is there still boarding during the COVID period? So Tamin, would you like to answer this question? Thank you,
Hi, yes,
Tamin.
thank you for your question. So due to the COVID-19 situation, the boarding program has been changed to Self-Mastery Plus or SM Plus. This is because we are not allowed to stay overnight in school. So the SM Plus program is basically the same activities that we do in boarding, except now in our classes instead. So there will be no intermingling between the different classes. Some of these activities include educational activities such as we learned about the history of mathematics, and there are also team bonding and team building activities at the end of the SM Plus program. Thank you.
Okay, thank you so much, Tamin. All right, next up we have another question. What is CAFE and what is it for? Anna, would you like to answer this question?
Yes, thank you for your question. So CAFE actually stands for Co-Curricular Activities for Exposure, and it's a program that every Sec 1 JH1 student has to go through, where they will be trying out one sports CCA and one performing arts CCA for 1 term each. So this will actually give the JH1s a good idea of which type of CCA they want to try, and so they can make an informed decision and a good decision for their CCA, which they will carry on for the next 4 years. So for me personally, I DSA'd through choir. So that was my performing arts cafe, but I could also additionally take on a sports cafe, and I took basketball, and I really had a very enriching time in both cafes, and I really made memories that were very meaningful to me. Thank you.
Okay, thank you so much, Anna. So next up, we have a question. Can you share how many were accepted into DSA track last year? So since Claudia is from track and field, would you be able to answer that question?
For last year, the DSA track, for my cohort, there were around, if I'm not wrong, 6 to 7 people who were accepted into DSA track. Thank you.
All right, thank you so much, Claudia. Okay, so next up we have another question. What are some interesting modules that you can learn in the music program? And are there any unique opportunities? So Thamin takes the music program. So Thamin, would you like to elaborate more?
Thank you for your question. So there are a few interesting modules that are available to us in the music program. So the one that I think strikes out to me most is the music writing program. So during music writing, we'll be exposed to the different types of writing and how music writing has evolved over the different periods and the different eras. So for example, we'll go back to the 1700s or the 1800s and learn how the writing has evolved from then and throughout the years. And we also are taught some modern music writing techniques such as soundscaping. So this is what I learned this year, and these opportunities are quite rare, and it really helps us to increase our exposure to different forms of music. Thank you.
All right, thank you so much, Thamin. Okay, so next up we have another question about the DSA experience via choir. So this question is asking for someone to share the experiences in DSA via choir. So Anna, since Anna is a choir DSA, maybe she can elaborate more about this?
Yes. So I actually DSA'd through choir, and what I had to do was I had to submit an application to MOE's portal. This year, you have to submit the portal by 1st June, 3 p.m. And in that, I had all my testimonials and whatever was required. You can check it out on the portal. And then after that, I was called for I was called for an audition. But this year, due to the COVID situation, there will be no audition. Instead, there will be an interview, and you will be interviewed by 3 people. In my year, I was interviewed by our principal, Mr. Ang, as well as the head of CCA and my CCA teacher in charge. And successful applicants will be notified by the 13th of September. Thank you.
Okay, thank you so much. All right, so next up we have a question. How was the orientation this year with the pandemic ongoing? Nabil, would you like to talk about this question?
The orientation this year, with the pandemic ongoing, was overall quite interesting and fun, as we got to bond with my classmates. I got to bond with my classmates and in my orientation group. Although there were many restrictions, such as not being able to play among other cohort mates, and we had to perform the orientation group dance in group in a group of 5 people. It was still orientation still was we were still able to bond closely with my classmates. For me, orientation this year with the pandemic ongoing was quite fun, as I got to experience many interesting activities, and I got to bond closely with my classmates. The most interesting activity I find in orientation is the cafe tryouts, which enables the new students to try out the different CCAs in NJ. Thank you for the question.
All right, thank you so much, Nabil. Okay, so next we have another question. What is the minimum number of subjects required in junior high 1? So to all the parents and P6s out there, in NJC, we have JH1, which stands for junior high 1, which is equivalent to secondary 1. Okay, Luo Chang, would you like to answer this question?
Sorry, it's been a while since I've been in GH1, so I'm not sure how to answer this question. Could any of the other panelists answer this?
It's all right. Nabil, since you're a GH1, would you like to answer that?
The minimum number of subjects required in GH1 are 7, which includes math, integrated science, language arts, geography, history, mother tongue, art, and PE. For the yes, thank you for the question.
Okay, thank you so much, Nabil. All right, next we have another question. And the question is asking, how are lessons like in NJC? Claudia, would you like to elaborate more on that?
Thank you for the question. So one thing I really like about lessons in NJC is that they are very discussion heavy, especially for subjects such as the language arts and humanities. So during these lessons, we get to discuss about what we have just learned in class in smaller groups before we present our findings and ideas to the rest of our classmates. And I really enjoy this way of lessons being carried out, because instead of having to sit down for hours on end just absorbing what the teacher says, we actually get a chance to really absorb what we have learned. And not only do we get to voice out our opinions to our classmates, we can actually gain new insights from them. And another thing I really like about our lessons is that they are very hands-on and interactive, especially for integrated sciences. So for the sciences, we get a chance to visit the very well-equipped NJ labs at least once a week. So during these lab sessions, we get to do a lot of hands-on experiments. One of my personal favorites was done just this year. So we got to cut up pieces of food and experiment with the different chemical regions that were provided. And from this, we actually got to see the chemical reactions and color changes in person. And I think this really helps us with getting a better grasp of the concepts that we are learning, because we get to see what actually happens in real life. So I think that the lessons in NJ are very holistic. Thank you.
Yeah, okay, thank you so much, Claudia, and I agree. Yes, NJC lessons are really holistic. Okay, so next we have another question. How is your experience with AAP, and if we take AAP, are we allowed to take third language as well? Lo Chang, which takes the art elective program, will be able to answer this question. Thank you, Lo Chang.
So my experience with AAP is generally quite good, and I really enjoy the lessons. So AAP really serves as a creative outlet for me to express my ideas and to discuss with my teachers and other classmates to see how to expand on them and how to express ourselves better as artists. And we also explore different media such as painting or perhaps sculptures. So for the assessments in AAP, we usually do projects. So this can be either film, sculptures, or 2D artworks. And we are usually given like a theme to base it on, or to have a prompt to tell us what should be expected of the final artwork. AAP is also an examinable subject. So in the later years, such as in JH3 and JH4, we may be expected to write art essays to analyze art and how the artists express their ideas. And yes, you are allowed to take third languages with AEP as well. In JH1 and JH2, I was actually taking French and AEP at the same time. And yeah, you are allowed to take both of them at the same time. Thank you.
Okay, thank you so much, Lo Chang. Next up, we have a question. How do you balance your time and energy between IP project deadlines and sports CCA training schedule? So, Claudia, would you like to answer this?
Thank you. So I think it's quite manageable, and we can cope quite well in NJ. Because for sports CCAs, we actually tend to start quite late. So for track and field, we actually start CCA at 4:30 p.m. And this is because we train with the senior high students, so we have to wait for them to end classes as well. And because we start quite late, we actually have pockets of time in between. So I end school at latest 2 p.m. So between 2 to 4:30 p.m., I actually get to catch up on all my homework and even start on some projects that are due soon. So I think with these pockets of time, we can actually cope quite well. And the teachers in NJ are really understanding as well, because they really care for our mental well-being. They often check up on us and how we are coping. And if we ever feel like we are falling behind and we can't really cope with all the stress, they are really open to helping us and extending deadlines. If we're ever falling behind in a certain subject, we can also arrange one-on-one consultation lessons with them, and we can meet them outside of school time to catch up on the material that was taught in class so that we can keep up with the rest of our classmates. So I think with these aspects, we are able to cope with the IP project deadlines and the sports CCA training schedule. Thank you.
All right, thank you so much, Claudia. Okay, next up. What sports CCA tryouts are there? Anna, would you like to answer this question?
In NJC, for the junior high, we have 6 sports CCAs. So we have basketball, canoeing, track and field, shooting, softball, and squash. So for sports CCA tryouts, if you're asking about DSA, all 6 of these CCAs offer DSA. Thank you.
Okay, thank you so much, Anna. Could you also elaborate on how many CCA days are there per week?
Usually there are 2 CCA days per week for about 2.5 to 3 hours each day. And however, closer to like competitions or performances, CCA days can go up to 3 days a week. Yeah, but usually 2 days a week. Thank you.
Okay, thank you so much, Anna. Okay, next up we have a question. What can we look forward to in NJC? Nabil, would you like to answer this question?
In NJC, you can look forward to the fun-packed orientation, and you can look forward to making new friends and growing in terms of growing mentally and physically. In NJC, when I came to NJC, I was really looking forward to the orientation, as I was excited to make new friends, and I wanted to to know the school more. And the orientation really helped me familiarize with the school and the supportive and new environment in NJ. Thank you.
Okay, thank you so much, Nabil. Okay, next up we have a question. Are students allowed to use mobile phones during school hours? Tharmin, would you like to answer this question?
All right. So for the JH1 and JH2s, the students are not allowed to use mobile phones during curriculum time. So what happens is that there are pouches at the back of the class for each student to place their phones in. So this is so that they can be more focused during lesson time. If need be, during lesson time, the teachers may give students permission to use them. For example, if they need to use it for group work or to search online. But mostly, mobile phones are not allowed for the first 2 years. However, from JH3 onwards, mobile phones are allowed, and it's up to the students to whether or not they want to use it during class time or if they want to keep it for after curriculum time. Yes, thank you.
Okay, thank you so much, Tharmin. All right, so next up we have another question. How are the projects like in NJC? Luo Chang, would you like to elaborate more on this?
Well, I'd say the projects in NJC are both interesting and manageable. So, when you join the school in JH1 and JH2, you'll be expecting projects from your integrated science as well as all your languages and humanities subjects. So, in these projects, they are trying to assess you on your ability to communicate with your team and your presentation skills, which will serve to be very important in the future when you in the workforce. So, it hones your ability to public speaking as well as discussion. So it prepares you for the future, and it also focuses on very interesting aspects. So for science, for example, in JH1, when I first entered NJC, our science project was to research on a plant and how it attracts different pollinators, or how it survives as compared to other plants in the garden. So the projects offered are actually all very interesting and diverse, and you will be expecting them from basically every subject. Thank you.
All right, thank you so much, Luo Chang. Okay, next up. How was the transition from primary school to NJC? Okay, Nabil, would you like to answer this question?
The transition from primary school to NJC was quite rough. However, the orientation really helped me with the transition from primary school to NJC to make it smoother. The the seniors were also played a big part in ensuring that the transition from primary school to NJC was smooth, as they spent 5 days with the juniors, the JH1s, and they familiarized us and brought us around to show us the school, and they slowly exposed us to the supporting environment and the new environment of NJC. I really hope that answers your question. Thank you.
Yep, okay, thank you so much, Nabil. Okay, next up, we have a question. Are there any leadership opportunities for the students? Okay, Claudia, would you like to elaborate more on that?
Here in NJ, there are actually a wide variety of leadership opportunities offered to students. I personally think that NJ is a great platform for you to either start your leadership journey or hone your leadership skills. So as for the opportunities offered, we start as early as JH1, that we are offered the class exco, which is basically the class chairman, vice chairman, CCA exco, and even the student council. So for the class exco, we actually get many opportunities, such as planning class bonding sessions and helping to facilitate the Teachers' Day celebrations and Chinese New Year celebrations. Because of COVID, we can't have these celebrations in the hall as a whole school. So the class exco is actually the ones who help to facilitate these celebrations in the classroom. As for CCA exco, we get a chance to help out in our CCA, contribute new ideas, and help to lead our teammates. And then for the student council, we get many opportunities that can be applied next time when we are in the workforce, such as learning how to draft emails and communicating with the student body and external vendors as well. So with all these opportunities offered to us, we actually get a good chance to really hone our leadership skills. So I think, yes, there are many opportunities offered to students, and I would highly encourage you or your child to take up one when they join NJC. Thank you.
Okay, thank you so much, Claudia. All right, next up. What is your personal favorite CCA and how many CCAs for boys are there? Anna, would you like to answer this question?
So obviously my personal favorite CCA would be choir because I'm in choir, but I would say all the CCAs in NJC that NJC offers are really good, and most of my friends are very happy in their CCAs and they love their CCAs a lot. And as for how many CCAs for boys are there, most CCAs are for both girls and boys. I think softball is the only CCA that is only for girls. But even if you're a guy and you would like to join softball, you can speak to the teachers in charge, and I'm sure they can try and get you in. Thank you.
All right, thank you, Anna. Could you also answer this question regarding if a DSA student is able to cope in NJC or not? This question.
So as for if DSA students are able to cope, yes, I would say that most DSA students are actually able to cope with our work and exams. And even if you feel as if you're not able to cope, you can always talk to your personal mentors or your subject teachers, and they'll definitely help you to give you like extra help, and you'll definitely be able to cope. Thank you.
Okay, thank you so much, Anna. Okay, so you have time for a few more questions. So we have a question. Is the homework load too heavy? Claudia, would you like to answer this one?
I would say that the homework load in NJ is quite manageable. And since the lower JH students, we end school quite early, going from around 12:20 p.m. to 2 p.m., we actually reach home quite early, and we have sufficient time to catch up on revision as well as homework. And if you ever feel that you are falling behind, you can always ask your subject teacher for an extension. Since the teachers in NJ are so nurturing and caring, they will definitely be willing to give it to you. So I would say that the homework load is manageable in NJ.
All right, thank you so much, Claudia. Okay, next up, we have a question. Are there any coding projects? If yes, starting from which level? Luo Chang, would you like to answer this one?
Yes, thank you. So coding projects will usually can start when you're in JH2, but most likely you'll be starting your knowledge. You'll be adventuring on coding starting from JH3. So in JH2, you are offered a subject called SPIRE, which stands for Special Program in Inquiry and Research, and you are allowed to choose from a variety of different areas that you can research on. So one of them is mathematics, which is what I chose, and we actually are doing cryptography, which involves a lot of coding, and to create algorithms to try and protect information. But most of the students will actually start experiencing coding in JH3. In JH3, you are offered a subject called Python. So you are allowed to join Python without a lot of requirements. So mostly you should indicate your interest and that you are able to cope with the extra subject, and you'll be allowed into the program. In the program, you focus on problem solving of very simple problems that will actually lead up to more complicated and complex issues that you can solve with coding. And yes, that's all. Thank you.
All right, thank you so much, Luo Chang. Okay, for the next question, we have a question. Did you have any friends who faced challenges in academic, mental, or psychological, or even financial challenges affecting their life in NJC? What did you do, or how does the system help them? Okay, Simon, would you like to answer this question?
Yes, thank you for your question. So in NJC, our PMs and the year heads really do work closely with students, and they really ensure that we are coping well with school. So for example, during PM time, which is a subject that it's a part of our timetable at the start of the day. So our PMs or personal mentors, basically our form teachers, they will speak to us about how we're coping with school, how we're doing at home, or how we are with our friends. And this really encourages a community where we're able to tell our teachers or our peers if we need any support. And I have a lot of faith in the system and in our teachers. And I feel like there is a lot of support for students, whether it's in their academics or even for psychological and financial challenges that they may have. Thank you.
Okay, thank you so much, Darwin, and I really do agree with him on that. Okay, now we have time for one last question. And the question is, would students in NJC have breaks in between lessons except for recess? Claudia, would you like to answer this one?
Students will not have any breaks in between lessons besides recess. This can cause our timetable to be quite packed, but because our timetable is packed, we actually get to be dismissed earlier. So as I mentioned earlier, we're dismissed from around 12:20 to 2 p.m., which is considered quite early. And I think since we are dismissed early, we get to go home earlier and have a good break before we continue with our revision and studies. Thank you.
All right, okay, thank you so much, Claudia, for answering that question. And that also marks the end for our NJC Open House 2021. So thank you so much to everyone who came down to watch our live stream today. And once again, I really hope that this session was useful in helping you make the right choice for your secondary school. So for more information, you can once again head to our NJC Open House YouTube playlist, as well as our Instagram or Facebook page. And to learn more about our school, you can also go to our NJC website. And that's all from us, and we hope to see you in NJC. Okay, bye-bye.